What's up, everyone? Welcome back to The Clutch. My name's John. If this is your first time here, thanks for joining us. This month, we have dedicated to all kinds of fascinating women in our industry. And tonight, I have the very special privilege of bringing to you Miss Shanti from Creature Teachers.
Hi.
What's going on, lady?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. We are starting a little bit late. We had some technical issues. We'll say that.
Yes.
But we're doing great. We're gonna get it going. So everyone kind of has that backstory, right? Where before we jump into Creature Teachers, what inspired you to kind of work with the animals that you're now working with? Like, what brought you into reptiles?
Okay. It was definitely Steve Irwin, hands down. Always been an animal nut since I was a kid. That's all I ever got from the library were animal books. That was it. But when I finally started like discovering him, I think I was probably 6 or 7, I want to say. That's all. That was like, that's it. That was the center of my little universe, was watching The Crocodile Hunter and Croc Files and anything that had to do with Steve Irwin, because he made the crocodiles and all the other animals endearing and sweet. And even when they're trying to bite him, he's like, they're just doing what they need to do and everything's fine. And I just was like, oh, they're just doing what they have to do. Everything's fine and there's nothing to be worried about. And I just like really identified with him and clicked with him. And I, even though never got the honor of meeting him in person, really just was like, that's my role model. That is who I want to be like when I grow up. So hands down, it was him. And I was homeschooled for forever, so I had no friends. So it was like, okay, this is my little imaginary world where this is my role model and I'm doing everything I can to be just like him. So it was hands down Steve Irwin. I've had a lot of other influential people in my life that have helped push and support and teach. But definitely it's always going to be Steve Irwin. He's had the biggest impact on me since at the earliest age I can remember. It was always something about him.
Nice. What was kind of your go-to reptile when you first got started?
Oh gosh, my dad would not let me have a single reptile. We were only allowed fuzzy things, and he had fish. That was it. So as soon as I turned 18, I was like, yeah, I'm an adult and do what I want. When I got to college and stuff, I was volunteering at a place down in Corvallis by OSU, Brad's World, and I volunteered there and worked there for a few years. But they had a rescue boa come in, and he had so many at the point, I was just like, I'll take it home. I'll take it home. So I took my red tail boa home and had her for freaking years. She was such an ass, but I freaking loved her so much. She was not pleasant. But it didn't deter me. I went in every excuse I could. It's my graduation present. It's my birthday present. I just found it. I don't know where it came from. I would just bring stuff home. Tarantulas, the frogs, the tortoises. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to put all these, but I'm bringing them home. So I just started my collecting, and I tried not to get a lot of the same thing. I'm like, okay, I get a couple of these, tried to make sure there was a diverse amount of species, because I was like, this was in the back of my head. I'm like, I'm going to go to classrooms. I'm going to go to libraries. I'm going to take these to kids' houses. We're going to do this. So I can't have like 25 ball pythons. I got to have something else. So I kind of broke it up. Princess Buttercup was my graduation present / birthday present to myself when I got done with college. And I spent way too much money on her, but I really wanted her. So she was the only one I had bought at that point. So out of the ambassadors I had. So I don't know. It's just been a really awesome journey. I really, really enjoy all of them, but my favorite critter I've had to date, I had to euthanize him quickly after I got him because I found out he had been sick when I got him, but I'd gotten all my permits and stuff, and I'd finally gotten my first alligator. And I was so excited because I'd worked with them at Brad's and everything else. And everybody that kept handing him off was like, oh, he's not eating. He's not eating. He's not eating. I'm like, there's something in his stomach. I can feel it. It's hard mass. Couldn't figure it out. Took it to my vet. She is an amazing veterinarian with exotics. I'm so sad. She went back to the zoo sector instead of private sector. But anyway, she did a quick little x-ray, found out he had eaten a bunch of the suction cups that hold the thermometers to the wall. People, you're killing me. And then he had a bunch of fake plants in his stomach too that were used for decoration. So he'd had him in there so long, he was so weak, he couldn't recover from a surgery. If we did the surgery and then dry docked him for months, he would have been a mess. So we opted to euthanize him. But that was definitely by far my favorite animal I've had to date. I've had my permits to get a couple of the more restricted species in Oregon. And I know a lot of people will just get them anyway because there's not really a regulation for it. But I try to be above board if I can. So
I definitely don't blame you there, especially with what you're trying to do. That is probably the worst thing you can do is just kind of do that run of the mill and try to hide it. Because
well, don't get me wrong, the rules are stupid. They're stupid.
I
Like
agree
the
with that.
crocodilian rule's fine, but like I have a pixie frog, African bullfrog, big fat little lump of water. Basically, it will freeze to death in our winters. There's no way that thing would survive. Absolutely not. But I have to have a permit for that. On the other hand, I've had cane toads, which would absolutely do well here because in Australia and shit, they do great. Deserts get super cold at night and they still are out of control. They're out of control in Florida. They would absolutely go wild and you can't tell them apart from our native toads except that they're bigger. It would kill a whole bunch of crap, but no permit for that. Super toxic cane toad. Pixie frog, it's like a water balloon with legs and it would freeze to death, but I have to have a permit for that. So the rules are stupid. I'm still going to follow them because I don't want anyone saying that I'm like doing anything shady and sketch. So now I try to go to all the things that USARK publicizes and puts open, says, hey, they're trying to ban this, this, and this again. You need to go down to the courthouse on these days and make your voice heard, blah, blah, blah. So I try to make sure I'm there for all of those to prevent any more stupid rules coming into play. But yeah, until someone starts properly educating the people making the rules, I will still try to follow them, even if I don't like them.
So you started bringing all your animals in right out of high school. Well, I guess out of high school because you said 18.
Yeah, that's when I'm starting to make my plans on where I'm going to be putting all these things because I had started college pretty quickly right after. So.
And then you were collecting during college and you already had the plan to do creature. I'm going to fuck this up multiple times.
Creature teachers.
Creature teachers.
Yes.
So how did that all come about? Was that you and a friend, or was that just, I want to do this education and I'm going to do it?
It had been my dream, my goal. I had all these things that I was literally volunteering and doing specifically to gain more experience with that. And my friend Amanda at the time, she was just like, dude, let's do it. Let's do this. So I was like, okay, cool. I got support. I got help. This is awesome. Okay. So we started it. And we kind of got it off its feet when my son was like 3 months old. I was like, this is the year. I need to do it. I've been out of college for almost a year. It's got to happen. So my son's like 3 months old. We get this thing going and it takes a little while to get it going because we're the only female educators that were like publicly doing this in the Pacific Northwest. The rest of them were men who had been doing this 20, 30 years. We did not have a lot of clout within not the community, but with like a presence. So we were like, we'd have to do a ton of advertising and then no one's going to really know us. But Rich Ritchie, the Oregon reptile man, he jumped right in and was mentoring and helping every time I had a bazillion questions for him. Any overflow work he had that he couldn't meet for some reason because his schedule's constantly swamped. That man does so much work. It's insane. He touches hundreds of thousands of kids every year. It's insane. He's amazing. He kind of trailblazed that out here in the Pacific Northwest. So when he had too much on his plate, he'd be like, hey, I got a couple shows if you want to do them. And I'm like, yes, snatching them up. The first year we had like 12 birthday parties. That's all we had the entire year. It barely covered the fuel to get to all the shows we did. And we drove northern Washington to southern Oregon. We went everywhere because I was like, I ain't turning anything down. So we didn't make any money.
That's
we
a
made
big
enough
spread,
to like,
dude.
yeah, we made enough money, I think, to pay like half the insurance bill before I had to pull out of my personal account. So we had the insurance and I tried to do everything on the legit up and up with a business license and everything. So I don't have any gray areas with taxes or whatever. Then the second year, we exploded. Between the 12 birthday parties we had and those referrals and more work that we had help from through the Pac Northwesters Expo with Jeff and Noah. They pushed for a bunch of people to recognize us and see us and host us, and they were talking about it and sharing it. So we just had a lot more support going into the second year. And then we went from the 12 shows previously to 60 shows. And most of them went in the summertime during the school year being out. So they have all these after school programs at the libraries where there are community programs. So all the people that can't afford things can go and do these events and have education and enrichment. So the majority of the 60 shows was all libraries that we had been connected through. And it was fantastic. We still got a couple of schools, but a lot of the schools have really tightened their grip on people coming in. So the parent teacher groups would get together and be like, well, we still want you, so we'll pay for you to be there. And then the school would just be like, whatever. And then they'd let the parent teacher club do whatever they want. So most of our in-school stuff was limited, but the libraries was out of control. One of our big ones was the Timberland Library Circuit through Washington. They have like, I think 60 libraries, and we did like 2/3 of them the first year. And they do a lot of rural libraries where there's not a lot of outreach and community and stuff, but there's nothing to do out in the small towns. I mean, one of them's up in, where is it called? It's up in the Olympic Forest, but it's called Amanda Park. One of my favorite libraries, but it takes like 4.5 hours to get there one way. So we'd always leave at like 4 a.m. to get there in time. So there was some real long drives. So it was nice to have Amanda and we could just swap out, but it was good. We've had a lot of really great, it's just grown. Like given last year being COVID, we had like 3 shows the whole year because everyone canceled. This year we've had a few more getting booked because people are just starting to get pandemic like fatigue. They want to do things and have enrichment, which is why I had a birthday party yesterday. And they tried to, work within the social distancing by having it be a drive-by show. So they're trying, and we're getting a couple more bookings, but definitely looking forward to getting back to work. And my animals got fat and lazy last year, not doing anything. So chill, bro. Chill. You're fine.
So you have a pretty widespread collection of animals that you work with. You want to talk about some of them and what's been easier to work with, what's a little bit harder to work with as far as shows?
Yeah.
Especially with children being around.
Children are the wild card. It's the human aspect that usually causes issues. Most of my animals are surrenders from other people. I've purchased a handful of them at this point in a few years. But I would say the difficult ones I tried to add to the show. Chameleons, my frilly right here, they're just a little too neurotic and anxiety ridden and way too sensitive for all the overstimulus of having just the drive to the location and leaving their cage, let alone the mobs of children that want to look at them or touch them. So I bought him specifically for that because my first frill was super chill, real relaxed. He went on his harness. He did his little T-Rex run up my leg and sit in my hair. He was amazing. This one's a coward and I don't want to have him have a heart attack. So I just all right, cool. You can stay home. He stresses very easily. The other one I've been working on socializing that has been proving exceedingly difficult was my Gidgee skink. I was super stoked because it looked like a little poor man's, shingleback. And I was like, yes, this is awesome. And he's a little asshole. He just tries to bite everybody. He's mean. He's mean. He just gapes at me. He shrills. He rolls like a death roll like a crocodile. He's just a mean little bastard. And he's like 5 inches long. I was like, bro, you were going to be so cool with your scales and everything, and you're a jerk. So I've been working on him for like 1.5 years, and he's still not chilling out. So I'm like, my beardy took a while. Maybe he just needs a little more time, but I'll bring him out in a little bit. He's a peach. So I had better luck with the gators.
Do you incorporate, because I know you do have a couple of hots.
Yes.
Do you incorporate that in the educational aspect and just keep them locked up, or how do you work that? I have
brought them to larger events. They always go to the expos with me. I always set up them at the expo because it's just long days of exposure, less handling. And they just get to sit for like 2.5 days at the expo versus being mobbed by children. But my Gaboon and my Great Basin rattlesnake are my 2 snake hots I have. And I've taken them to a couple of my larger libraries that are super local, super close, that are my longtime repeat clients, like the Estacada Library. They're wonderful. They've had me out every single year. The main librarian who runs the education, she is deathly afraid of snakes. And every year she has slowly gotten a little closer. Like before, she wouldn't be in the building. Then she wouldn't be in the room. Now she's come into the room. And then last year she came and stood like 6 feet away from the table. She still hasn't touched anything, but every year she's gotten closer. So they keep booking me. So I take the fun stuff out there and I'd be like, come on, you can do it. She's like, maybe next year. And she gets better every year. So I'm like, I'm gonna get her. I'm gonna get her and it's gonna be great. But yeah, I take the hots to limited events just to keep their stress level down, because they are hard to come by and I really don't want to cause them to have any excess issues. My Gaboon is still pretty young, so he's only 2 or 3 years old right now. My Great Basin rattlesnake was a hand-me-down from a couple of other friends because they knew I needed one. It's one of my dream snakes. So I was like, any rattlesnake. I would have loved a speckled and some others, but they're harder to find, more expensive, and having them have the procedure done and stuff like that is expensive. So I was just like, get my hands on something with a rattle and I'll be happy.
So you had to turn them into venomoids?
Yes. I had a friend who had owned them and had the procedure done, which is why I felt okay buying from them, because I trusted them. And I'm like, I trust you. I'm not going to go buy something off, King Snake Classifieds and be like, it's fixed. I'm like, sure. Okay. So I only bought them from people that I knew personally, and then they can show me proof that they had them done. And even with that, I still periodically will test using hoppers and mice and stuff, and throw a live in there, let them bite it, pull it out, see what happens, just because complacency is what kills people. So I try really hard to be super careful and not get complacent. I always use the hook with them. Always. I got kids. I want to teach kids not to be stupid. So I have to exhibit that and do that all the time.
Nope. I don't know what just happened.
I don't either. There we go. That was weird. But yeah, so those are the 2 snake hots that I have. Now my lizard hots, I have a Gila monster and a beaded lizard. The Gila is amazing. Got her from my friend Jeff. And he had her since she was a hatchling. She's 18, or I think she's 19 this year. Oh. She's 19 years old. Just a doll. I love her to death. She's just a fat little happy sausage. She just hangs out, lays on my arm, and just lets kids pet her all day. And she's super mellow, doesn't stress. She's a great eater. She's just happy, just a happy little sausage. She just hangs out. The beaded lizard now, he's satanic. There's something wrong with him. He's just mad. He's mad at life. He's mad at the world. Nothing makes him happy. He wants to come out, but he doesn't want to come out if it's with me. So he just gapes and postures and threatens all damn day. I'm like, bro, you gotta chill. But I've had him since he was a baby. And I'm like, do you not understand? I love you. Please love me back. And he doesn't. He absolutely hates my guts. So eventually, because he's going to be way bigger than the Gila, I'm like, we will have a bond. That might be in my imagination, but we will have a bond and you will be nice. Everything will be fine. But he would bite the hell out of me if I gave him 2 seconds chance. So he hasn't gone to any shows yet. The Gila's gone to a whole bunch. She's gone to birthday parties and she's gone to a bunch because she just does not stress. She's just chill. My friend Jeff, who had her, had 2 kids and they messed with her and played with her. When I was pregnant with my first, she was the first Gila monster I got to hold. So I'm all like sentimental, but I love her to death. So she's just easy peasy. I love her to death. So, and I mean, there's not really an anti-venom for the Gila or the beaded. So if I get nailed, it's just going to be a gnarly couple of days on morphine and I'm going to wish I was dead, but it won't kill me. So long story short, I was like, it's not going to feel great, but I'll learn my lesson and be a little quicker next time if she nails me. So, but she never threatens. So I'm not super worried about it. Now the little baby beaded, he'd totally tear me up. It's a one-way love streak. Like, I get it. Like, yeah. I totally understand that my love is not reciprocated. Like, I dumped thousands the last few years when my exotic vet, before she went back to zoo med, I was like, I need to get everybody done. We did exams, x-rays, fecals, blood work. Like, I did everybody, even if they weren't sick, just to have it done before she left, because I'm not going to be able to afford this once she leaves, because everyone else overcharges. And I'm like, why are you leaving me, Erica? So I got all of them done, and now I'm like, oh, well, at least I know it's had it done and everybody's good. So, but yeah, they are totally ungrateful. They're ungrateful. All the money and time I put into them. So
I definitely have that reciprocated. I have, well, most of my snakes are pretty chill, but
what you got?
so I have ball pythons, reticulated pythons,
Or for
corns.
the original, like, mainland?
I have 3 mainlands and a super dwarf,
Ah,
and then Mexican black king snakes,
nice.
a little albino corn snake that someone dropped off for me to board while they PCS, because we were both in the Army and we had known each other
Okay.
forever. They're like, yeah, we're going there and then we're moving back in 2 years. And I've had this snake for about 4.5 years. And I'm like, hey, when are you going to come pick up your snake? But
Just kidding.
yeah. But yeah. And then I have a red tail female that's over with my friends right now being bred. So
Nice. I would say it's a close tie. I got some favorites. I try not to pick favorites, but it's hard not to. I've had my albino red tail boa for 5 or 6 years now. I named her Penelope, but I'm pretty sure it's a boy. But because I don't breed, I just keep calling her a girl because it's what I've called it for forever. But she's blind in one eye. The eye never finished developing when she was hatched. I got her when she was like 3.5, 4 years old. The guy had been keeping her in a fish tank. Like, it was kind of sketch. But he's like, I'm going to go backpacking in Alaska. I can't really take the snake. I'm like, yes, I'll take her. Thanks. Cool. So I've had her for forever, and she's gigantic. She's one of my favorites. So everybody's always wanting to see Penelope. And because she's blind in one eye, I can give that little bit of a sad backstory, and that just makes people more endeared with her and less judgmental about the big scary white snake. And you're like, oh, she's hurt. Is she okay? And then they all of a sudden get soft with her. So, and she's the most patient, forgiving snake you could possibly have. She's perfect for the education stuff. I usually don't let the kids pet around heads. They pet backs and tails, but every once in a while, one sneaky little bastard sneaks up there and, what's wrong with her eye? Jabs her in the face. And I'm like, excuse me? Why would you poke her in the face? And they're just like, then they feel all embarrassed and ashamed, but the snake just sits there like, it's cool, bro. It didn't work anyway. I'm like, you're so nice. She's a really, really wonderful snake.
that's awesome.
Like, I just love her to pieces. She's a little on the fat side because we didn't do anything last year. So I was like, hopefully you'll go through a growth spurt soon. Use some of that up. But yeah, she's definitely my favorite snake.
I forgot about all the legged animals.
Yeah, I'm like,
I let my wife have the legged animals. I keep the legless. Although her chameleon is technically mine, I guess, because he puffs up and starts hissing and just goes nuts. If anyone besides me approaches the cage at all, he loses it. But I can go in there and he eats out of my hand. He'll crawl out. Like when it's time to clean the cage, he'll crawl out onto my hand and I have to put him. And he he crawls underneath and hides under the beard so that no one can see him.
What is he? Is he a veiled or?
Yeah, he's just a little veiled.
I had my first chameleon that I had as a rescue was a panther, a little female panther, just boring grayish brick red. And she would go pitch black every time she looked at me. If I looked at her, if I adjusted her spray nozzle, anything, pitch black. She hated it. And I finally found someone who was going to adopt her, like had her at the vet. They're like, oh yeah, she's perfect. She's good to go. And literally she had a heart attack in the vet clinic and died. Well, the exam's like, oh yeah, she's in perfect health. I'm like, they're like trying to do CPR on her. I'm like, oh my God, don't hurt her. They're so fragile. And she like they literally tried to do like little heart stick adrenaline to help her wake up, and she just kicked the bucket. I was so sad. I'm like, clean bill of health, and she just died of a heart attack on the exam table. What the hell? Never again. No. Like that wasn't even with kids. That was me and the vet. That was it. That was all that was in the room. So
Super
I've
sensitive,
kind of
man.
sworn off chameleons. I really like them. And ever since Tangled came out, everybody loved Pascal. I was like, oh my God, I need to get one and kids will love it. It'll be like, because I name a lot of my
That's what my
animals
wife
after.
named hers.
Yeah, I named them all after like pop culture. I'm a super big nerd. So anything Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, stuff like that, I end up naming most of my animals for that for me. But I've had a Snow White, I've had all kinds of critters named after kids stuff just because it'll help the kids connect better. And I was so sad. I was like, oh, I can't do another chameleon. I just can't. They hate it. But I was so excited because I was like, I can name it Pascal. We don't have any reptiles in media right now. And that's like the only one I could think of that was like super popular. So been kind of bummed, but I try to
You
find
could do
fun.
the what is it? The alligator and Princess and the Frog. I forget his name now.
Oh,
I think
yeah, yeah. I was like, he was such a side character, though. I feel like I don't even remember his name. Like, my first frilled dragon was Frank from Rescuers Down Under, but I'm like, that's
yes.
not even in this kid's generation. Like, they ain't gonna know what I'm talking about. I'm like, it's Frank, y'all. It's Frank. How do you not know Frank? Like, that was my favorite, and I loved it. I was like, oh, I love these movies. Kids didn't know
That's
what
a
the hell I
good
was
one.
talking about.
That's a good one.
Yep, my first frill was, he's the one that got me addicted to frillies. So this little coward, he's just scared of everything, so he doesn't go nowhere. But yeah, I have so many of the favorites, and I try not to pick favorites, but I totally have favorites. You're not one, it's a year, but
I mean, whether it's this is gonna sound really bad.
at least you
Whether it's
practiced it. I can prepare
human
myself.
children or animal children, I think you always have favorites. You're like, I love you, but I
Yes.
really love you.
Right. Yeah, no. Okay. Quick sidestep on human children, not reptile
I hope my
children, but
wife isn't watching this.
my first was a fucking angel. He was perfect. I was like, oh, I'm such a good mom. I'm so good at this. He was so obedient, so willing and pliable. Everybody's like, you've done such a good job. Just made me feel like I was this amazing mother. Flash forward to my second one. The devil's a lie, and I am not a good mother. I have no patience. And I'm like, God, what happened? This one's broken. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. I'm gonna take it to the fire department. I need to return it, do something. I need it fixed. It's crying. It won't stop crying. Nothing I'm doing is working. And he likes my mom. He doesn't like me, but I don't know what's happening. It was a horrible. We had such a hard time bonding. He's great now. He's almost 2, but God, the first year was horrid. And I'm like, I love you. I don't like you. I really need to like you. It needs to be a thing. And nobody wants to talk about this kind of stuff, but those second
It
children are
happens.
a trap. It's a trap. And bonding with them is exceedingly difficult. And I'm going to say it right now. It's not impossible. It just takes a while. And that's why I like my reptile children. They're a nice escape from everything else.
It's a complete 180 for me. Like
Oh.
my second child, she's daddy's girl, so I have to be nice. I have to be nice because it's my only girl.
I
But there's
have 2 boys.
times where I'd like I've had to put my hand to her butt a couple of times and just be like, no,
Oh
don't do
God,
that. And it's like,
spanking is a
oh
thing
no.
in my house.
So no, like I do it, but as soon as I spank my daughter, I'm like, all right, woman, you need to watch over her. I can't do this. Like I can't do
I'll be
this.
like, Ma,
And
Nana, it's time for Nana to take over because I need
the
to remove
baby,
myself. Yeah. I'm
he
like, attitude.
is his father reincarnated before my death.
So when your parents said, I hope you have one just like you, came out true, huh?
100% true. Like this,
So funny.
and he's attached to my hip. The other 2 are attached to mom's hip, and they want to do
Oh.
everything with mom. And until I start horse playing with the baby, and then everyone's like, "Oh, let's gang up on dad time," which
Right.
obviously it looks like fun, so they want to do it. But
Right.
my oldest, and I think it's partially because his grandma kind of raised him for a while. Because me and my wife were both in the military at the time, and
Oh yeah.
she was working nights. So during the day while he was up, she was passed out. Like she'd get up for a couple hours and spend time with him.
Yep.
His first year and a half, I was either in the field or I was deployed, so I didn't have a lot of time with him, so there's no real connection.
Yeah,
Like
that's
obviously we're working towards it, but it's just
it
like,
takes
dude,
time.
everything you do, I want to just wrangle your neck. Like, just be
Yeah.
quiet. Be quiet. Watch the TV.
Chill,
You're
bro.
like, go play with yourself. It's okay. Just go play in your room. I
Ah,
love
let's
you.
make sure. Yeah, let's preface how we say that.
Yeah. I mean, there's it probably could have been said better, but he's
Yeah,
only
no,
6. I don't have to worry about the. Well, God, I
yeah. My
hope I
ex
don't have to
was
worry about
gone
that
a
yet.
lot the first couple of years. He was gone a lot the first couple of years with my first child. So it was like just me and him. That was my little co-pilot. We did everything together, and I was like, "Oh my God, you're amazing."
Sorry.
That's
You're good.
fine.
You're good. Yeah. I pushed it an hour. Oh, can you hear the baby?
I can.
That's the baby.
Daddy.
Come here, buddy. This is
See, this is
my.
real life.
Come here, baby. This is the reincarnated with pre-death.
Hello, baby.
Say hi.
Reincarnated. Hello. How are you? Hi.
Say, I'm good. Yeah. You
Yeah,
got some
you're
stuff
good.
all over. You
Okay.
got chocolate all over your face. Yeah. Did you enjoy those cookies? Yeah. Mwah. I see you later. Yeah. I gotta listen to her. That's how I listen.
We're hanging out.
I'll get you in a little bit, okay? Yeah, it's a hat. You want Daddy's hat?
Chacho, chill. There you go.
No, I need those, honey. Yeah. No, you can keep
Oh, I
that.
have so many of these conversations. I'm like, oh, it's so nice to have a conversation with an adult.
Right? It happens. Go to mommy. I'll see you in a little bit. Love you. It's okay.
That's
You
real
want
life.
cookie? You want cookie?
You trying to bribe him?
Yeah. I told you, he's like his dad. I went from like super fit and to full on dad bod within like
Dude,
that. As soon as I got the
my
opportunity.
my quarantine 15 is not left. It is stuck, and I cannot get rid of it. I'm like, bro, Chacho, this is a problem. I need to not be having soda. That'll like be the first step.
It's horrible, dude. That's the hardest thing to kick too.
Yeah, well, I used to never keep soda in my house. My parents keep soda in their house. It's a problem because it's just always around. And I'm like, oh, a nice cold soda sounds good. And I need to drink water, more water.
All right. I'm gonna try to get back in this. I'm trying to remember where we were.
I know. We were talking favorite animals, I think, for a minute.
Yeah, you and Amanda started it, and then we
Yes.
were talking about your favorite animals to work with and how
Yes.
what you had to go through with, or what you have to do with venomous. And then how you kind of started. You had a little bit of mentorship. What other avenues have you taken to really push your name and grow? Because I feel like the Pacific Northwest is kind of a big area to cover and lay claim
Yes.
to.
Yeah. Bro, come back here. It's been a challenge because I don't have a lot of money. Single mom, 2 kids, limited budget, and there's no reptile shows because usually my reptile shows, the hobby pays for itself. Yeah.
Right.
They pay for the insurance every year. They pay for their taxes every year. They pay for their food all year. They pay for their vet bills all year. And then I had 3 shows last year. So everything's been coming out of personal budget. So that's been really hard. So that's been a problem. It's been really hard to keep things going. And I've been trying very hard to delegate personal funds to reptile stuff without it causing too many issues with taxes and stuff. But it's definitely been an issue.
So I'm going to take this moment to kind of talk about what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know, Shanti does have a Patreon page. She does something pretty inspiring to me. I really like what she does. actually a member of a couple of Patreons, and I'm figuring out what I want to do right now and what I can get away with, because obviously everything has to be done within a budget, right?
Right.
But
Yeah,
she
exactly.
has, well, I'll let you explain it after I go through like your normal levels, and then you can explain the fun part.
Oh, for sure.
So she has a basic 3-tier setup, which is pretty affordable on any tier. I mean, unless you're just
Like you're me
not
and you're broke.
keeping a budget. Yeah, if you're not keeping a budget at all, it could be difficult every month. But other than that, it's fairly simple to get on. You have a bronze, a silver, and a gold between $5 and $12. And then she has a pretty great feature with all the animals, which I'll let her go into right now.
Yeah. So something that was inspired by my friend Brandon, who did roaming reptiles and down in California. His animal ambassadors he used for his educational shows, they all have their own slot on the sponsor page. So instead of just paying a generic level, gold, bronze, silver, or whatever, we put each of the animals in as a generic, like, here's a spot if you want to sponsor one of the animals versus just donating money as a one time. You could sponsor the care specifically to one of our animal ambassadors. So we'll have like Princess Buttercup, one of my ball pythons who's been around for forever and doing the shows with me. She's specifically on there. And my friend from Australia sponsors her. Then we have our hissing cockroaches, Nick and Knack. They have their own sponsor. They're sponsored by my friend. And then I have a few others that are already sponsored, but you can scroll down and look through all the ambassadors. Come back, dude. And go through and scroll through the ambassadors and see who interests you or who you would desire to sponsor or have some type of connection to. And some of them we try to offer, hey, at different intervals throughout your sponsorship, at like the 6-month mark or year mark, we'll send out t-shirts and extra pictures of the animal to you in the mail, so you get like this little, gift, so to speak, a thank you. We have stickers that we'll send out. We'll send out a certificate. My godson's mother helps run the websites and the Patreons and stuff, and so she lets me know when it's time to go get stuff done. But you get a certificate that says you're sponsoring these animals from creature teachers, and that the money that you're donating goes directly to their care. So it's pretty neat, and I really like, just inspiration hit after I saw Brandon's page. I'm like, that is brilliant. And Brandon's was just amazing and super detailed and really well put together. And so we just kind of strive to have that out there, because I feel like that's more enticing for people to have a direct connection to one of the animal ambassadors versus just a generic support. Because a lot of people I know get suspicious about donating money and stuff because they don't know where the funds are being used or appropriated. So we try to very, very clearly say this is directly going to be feeding these animals or going to their vet bills or whatever. And then try to get on there and post at least once a month on what's going on and put some shout outs and thank yous out there for people doing that for us.
Okay. And I really like it because in all honesty, it kind of reminds me of a zoo. Like, you remember when you go to the plaques and you see, okay, this is the animal, and you get all the information on it, and then it says sponsored by this person or sponsored by this organization, and I really like it. It's a nice.
Yeah, I'm pretty active on, as far as my websites and pages and stuff go. The Facebook's the one I am most personally active on. I check it daily. I'll add articles to it daily. But when I post a lot of updates, I post them there first. So there'll be a lot of videos of the animals when they're out swimming in the pool, or they're swimming and hanging out in the garden, or if they're climbing on me, or if my kids and me are feeding them, like whatever. I just try to post all the little daily, here's the check-in when I can, and when the weather's nice enough to get some nice pictures outside, not in the gloomy area of my reptile room. So try to post updates on there too, so people can get on and just see it in their news feed if they're following us that way.
And we were actually talking about this a little bit. I think it was last week, about your trailer that you're building and how you're trying to get it set up.
Yep,
and I
that
think
is on
that's another great thing to play into this if you're just doing a regular
yeah, for
Patreon.
sure.
Obviously, like, you want the money to go towards the animal's care, but to also progress kind of what you're doing in all
Yeah.
aspects, and building a show trailer, as
Yeah.
you put it.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what else to call it. It's
Yeah, I don't.
basically the ambassador's mobile trailer slash home away from home. The mobile, it's a prefab mobile office unit. So it is technically on wheels, which makes it a lot easier to deal with because trying to get a blueprint and permits and all this stuff set down so you can have a concrete building, even if it's just a shed, put down is ridiculously expensive in Multnomah County, where I live, in Portland, Oregon. So we were trying to find not necessarily ways around it, but totally trying to find ways around that because I'm like, I don't got extra money to throw at that. So I have some silent supporters who were like, hey, we will totally try and help you get this done, but you got to figure out details. I'm like, okay, I'll try. Because everything else going on in my life has felt so overwhelming. I'm like, this is a good thing. This will help. Delegate time to it. It's fine. So going through and getting on Google, tracking down numbers from the permit departments and everything in Portland and trying to figure out who I need to talk to and how this is going to work. Is this okay? And are we sure it's okay? Not just someone saying, I think it's okay, just so it bites me in the butt later. So we've been trying to find these prefab mobile units. We've been looking at used units because they're just cheaper, way cheaper. And it doesn't need to be brand new. It just needs to be intact and whole. And I took my mom with me. We went and looked at a couple of used lots and saw what they had. They all have heat and electricity already done. They're not just like shells. Like I had initially looked at getting like the larger sheds that you see at Home Depot and stuff, just getting one and making it like a she shed type thing. But they have no electric, no insulation, no nothing. And they cost just as much as the used units on the prefab. And the prefabs are insulated, electric, like they test all that stuff and they let you know, hey, this thing needs a repair. If you want us to do it, it'll cost a little bit more, but it'll be done. So found a couple of units that would fit in the space we have here at my parents' house. They come with the OSHA regulated stairways that are nice and safe for people. And it comes with the heat, the electric, all that stuff. So right now we're trying to figure out making sure the electrical panel within the house can support that trailer because obviously that's going to be a lot of power going out there. So the electrician is supposed to come out to my parents on the 1st and start evaluating what can be done, what it'll cost, blah, blah, blah. But then they would deliver the trailer, set it up on its little pilings, basically park the mobile unit, and we'll move things out of the space that they're in into the new space, which is a little bit bigger, way more well lit, much nicer. And it will give me a space for people to come visit because having people show up to your garage is kind of sketch and kind of weird. And I don't really want someone to trip on something in my garage and die and then have these like, well, it's my business, but you were at my house. So we try to have a separate space for the animals that people can visit, makes it a little bit more legally safe. And I feel better about saying, they're not going to see random crap in my garage and like whatever. They can come straight to this, see the animals, and then there's a very clear delineation between the business building, so to speak, and this. So it's been on the back burner for a while just because of all COVID and everything else going on, but it's time. So I've been trying to work on details, trying to get that kind of settled and moving forward, even if it's slow increments, trying to moving that way. So pretty excited about that.
It brings a whole new level of professionalism. Not saying that you're not professional. Like I love what you do. You know, not taking any jabs here, but
jabs.
You know, it's a good way to separate, and it allows you to have like that office time and that home time, and be able to regulate the two. And like you said, you don't see stuff around the house or like. I talked to my wife about it, and we're looking at moving, and I was like, well, I want a big enough lot that where like one side of the land we have the rats and the snakes. The other side of the land is where the house is. And there's a street that separates. So they should never have to come towards the house at all.
Exactly. Yeah, that's always been my plan, is to have a separate, like, ideally it would be a way big building. Like right now it would be a smaller prefab mobile unit at this time. But at some point I'm like, I want a 40-foot long mobile unit set up specifically for the animals, because the 40-foot plus units have a separate office on both ends of the unit. So one can be a quarantine room or a
Mhm.
sick bay, and then one can be the actual office where I can have my paperwork and book the shows and have all of the loose crap that's all my office stuff that's currently in my bedroom in the office. And then the whole centerpiece, which is like the 30 feet of the trailer, is going to be where the animals stay. It will make life so much easier. So that's kind of the plan long run, is to get one of the bigger ones. Right now, I'm like, this is the space I can work with. So I'm going to have to get one of their smaller units. But even then, I would still have the smaller unit later on. And maybe that whole entire unit can be the quarantine unit and the larger one can be the new one. And then I have a storage room and an office or whatever. So it doesn't need to be brand new. It doesn't need to be shiny. It just needs to be watertight and insulated and have electric. That's all I care about. As long as the animals are
100%.
safe and they have room, and I can spread them out and they're not like cages sitting on top of each other. And I can like, oh, this looks so nice if someone came to visit. Um, I I have a couple of friends that are just really good at making their reptile spaces look like what everyone else wants their space to look like. My friend Shane, he's at Evergreen Reptiles. Shout out to my brother. He's amazing. He's got, I could eat off the floor in his reptile room. It's disgusting how clean he keeps it. Like, I say disgusting because it makes me mad that I can't keep my house that clean in general, let alone the reptile room. And he's got kids and a cat and a dog and all this other stuff. And his reptile room's like primo clean, super amazing. Like it's never a mess. So it doesn't even smell like reptiles live in there. So it's ridiculous. Broski, come here. So I try to keep my inspiration with Shane and a few other people that are not necessarily clean freaks because they don't like mess, but because it's an example that you want to set. Having a presence, like, we're going to keep it nice. It's a business. It is not a junk room. It's not just the garage in your house. It is your business space. Keep it nice. And so I've always tried to keep that in the forefront of my mind when I go into my space. I'm like, if I brought someone in here now, would this be embarrassing? Would this look not nice? Would I be worried how the animals are being cared for? Even if they look healthy, does it look a mess? Like, I really want to project the image I want our community to be looked at, because I, as much as I don't think about myself being that way, I am a face of the reptile community. I am putting myself out there. The product that I sell, hi, Brad, the product that I sell is specifically my voice, my knowledge, and it's getting that experience close to the animals and stuff. And can't, if I can't show order and consistency and safety and cleanliness, people are just going to see us as always being this like niche community off to the side. It's kind of sketch. They're all the druggies that have an iguana sitting on top of their boombox and whatever when they roll up in the house. And I'm like, I don't want people to think of these animals as gross. They really aren't. And it's literally lack of human judgment keeping us off onto the side and being marginalized. And I'm like, reptiles are so freaking mainstream, it's insane, and we still get marginalized. I'm sure there are more reptile pets than there are fish at this time, because fish tanks are just a pain in the butt. I'm sure more people have bearded dragons and all these lizards than they do fish. I don't know. That's
Well,
just my feeling from seeing what I see when I drop into PetSmart or Petco. It's like everyone's buying crickets for their lizards. Everyone's buying mealworms. Everyone's buying these things for their lizards. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, I don't want people to feel like they need to be ashamed that they have these animals, or that
yeah.
someone's going to be like, "Oh, that's so gross. Is there snake loose in your house?" Every time. I'm
All the
like,
time.
"No, bro.
I
I got a
have
2-year-old. I don't
40
trust my
animals and
2-year-old not
they're
to hurt my
free
snake."
range. I free range everything. What are you talking about?
Right. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had tons of people that do. And if that's the way they want to do it, fine. I don't trust my children to not accidentally step on something or hurt something. And it's hard to regulate humidity and temps that way and keep everybody healthy. And God forbid they start eating something they shouldn't. I'm like, they got it out of the trash can. I don't know. Like, two of my rescue tortoises have that I had gotten from some other folks. They were free range tortoises in the house. They went whenever they want, crapped wherever they want, and they were eating whenever they want. And the first couple of days I had them, they were crapping out some weird stuff. Like, oh, that's a little bit of a terry cloth wash towel. Okay, cool. Or there's bit of a crayon, and I think that's a balloon skin. I'm not really sure what's going on. Like, they had some crazies, and I'm like, okay, we're going for a fecal because I don't know what's wrong. And if you have bowel obstruction or something, we go in there, X-ray them. They're totally fine. They're just eating random crap around the house. Dude, what are you doing? Come here. So I don't free range my stuff just because I'm like, the dog is free range already. I don't really want, and she's great, but I don't really want to have any issues. I don't want to have there be an excuse for any issues. Complacency, again, really does bite you in the ass later on. So I try really hard to set myself up for success by not having any of these issues that could arise from being careless.
There you go. I like it. I lost where we were.
I know. I keep bunny trailing.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I love having these conversations that I'm like, crap, where was I? I didn't make a note. So
we were talking about kind of how you sponsored, and then we struck onto, well, we talked about Patreon, onto the trailer because I was super excited about that, and I'm trying to push support to the Patreon. Go support Patreon.
Yes.
I'll be doing it after this. I just don't know which tier.
That's totally fine.
A year ago, you created something and you haven't done anything with it, ma'am. Oh no, we lost her. Hold on. We will get her back. Her phone probably just died, so she has to switch to the laptop. We are going to get her back, though. There we go.
Hey,
your phone died, huh?
No, phone didn't die. The lizard freaking pushed a button. He leapt on my phone and hit a button. Totally hit the button and sent it back to my email. I'm like, bro, Chacho, chill, man. So he's like losing his mind over here.
So a year ago, you started something. You made 2 videos and then you just stopped. What's going on?
Which
I'm
one?
going to give you crap right now. Your Creature Teachers Pacific Northwest YouTube.
Oh,
you're here to educate, woman.
I know. So my godson's mother, who runs all the websites and stuff, she was putting together all those videos and stuff. And then she got 2 up and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I need to share those. And we were going to try and do one once a month, try and like feature one of the animal ambassadors, talk about them or what their history was when we got them, their little personal backstory. And then we just totally got sidetracked. And then she got locked out of YouTube. And then I got locked out of the YouTube. And I'm like, do I even have a YouTube? Like literally like 3 months ago, I was like, I don't remember if I have a YouTube or not, because I hadn't been on it in so long. And I was able to get on and like, oh my God, I do have one. I need to figure out how to get logged back in. And got it unlocked. I'm pretty sure one of my kids locked me out of it, but got back in, got it sorted. And so she and I have been working on trying to get some videos back up. So,
I was going to give you a really hard time. I was like, come on now. Education,
really, honestly, I'm like, my delegation of skills is like, okay, I try really hard to like primary focus on my boys, on keeping the animals all fit and healthy, and at some point showering. That's like my priorities right now. But
you're doing better than me. Doing better than me.
When I get to like details, when it comes to electronics and having to do social media updates and doing that kind of stuff, like my friend Lance, God bless him, he reminds me and / nags me, and I'm like, thank you.
This guy?
I need to be nagged. Yes, my boy. He is awesome. And he reminds me, hey, you haven't been on Patreon. Did you die? What's going on? I'm like, I'm not dead. I'm sorry. They're like, he reminds me, and he's like, you need to get on. You need to push these things. You need to do these things. It's going to help you grow. It's going to get you support. I'm like, I know.
I'm just saying, so, you have a pretty large group of friends that are all fairly well versed in social media.
I know.
And I'm sure would help out in some aspect.
Right. Exactly. And so we've talked about this with a few different people, and like plans will get made, and then something falls through, and I'm like, okay. But because it's not in my brain as like a priority, I'm like, I'll get to it. And then I just falls off. And I'm like, my godson's mother usually does it. And I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out. And I'm like, okay, I just need to literally write this on my hand, my original Palm Pilot, write it in and be like, don't forget to do a YouTube video. Don't forget to check on the Patreon. Don't forget to do it. Because it's just not in my head the priority. My priority is checking the animals, making sure the kids are good, working on the divorce, all the other things that life tries to kick my ass with. So getting nagged by my friends, like my big supporters, like being nagged is a good thing. So, trying to work
when you initially started this, where did you see it going?
on that.
What was your overall dream for it when you first started?
I'm a dreamer, a big dreamer, but I've never thought of anything too grandiose because the self-conscious side of me is like, it's just going to fail. You're never going to be Steve Irwin. Stop. Just give up. So that part eats at me all the time. But the big priority was, it doesn't matter how many lives you touch, just don't stop. Don't stop. Keep going. Don't give up. Keep going. It doesn't matter if it's even one kid at the birthday party that liked the snakes and reptiles. If they remember they had a good time and that the snake wasn't scary, you're done. You did your job. They don't have to remember. I have so many kids that say, they'll write me a thank you card. Yet, thanks for bringing the rattlesnake. I'm like, it was a corn snake, but that's cool. You remembered it was a snake and you liked it. So the information necessarily is important to me, but overall, I would much rather the children remember that they had a good time. They didn't get bit. It's fun. And if someone else says something negative or wants to say, oh, that's a snake, you just need to kill it, they're going to be like, no, snakes are nice. And just that I would be happy with. So as long as I can keep going and knowing that it's only that, I'd be happy. I was hoping I could get enough support to be like Rich, the Oregon Reptile Man, my mentor, be like, okay, cool. He does this many shows a year. If I can do a quarter of that, I would be thrilled. A quarter of that, and just have it consistent throughout the year and have that be like my side part-time job because I can take my kids to it when they're older and they can help.
Right.
That would be ideal. And then I've had a couple people like, dude, you could push this and make $100K a year. I'm like, it's not about the money. I want to get into places. I want to be touching kids. That's what I want. Money is what keeps the animals alive. So that's the important part. Yeah. I'm like, I need the animals to be able to take care of themselves so that when I work my regular job, I can take care of the human children. That's what I need. Bro, chill out. So it was, sorry, he's like scratching the side of my head. It's fine. But
you didn't need that portion anyways. It's okay.
I know. I have 2 ears. It's fine. He can scratch the other one to pieces. But yeah, that was my priority, is just touch people's lives. Get animals that people aren't used to seeing up close and let them touch them, let them experience them. That was my huge thing, is like Steve Irwin said, people aren't going to want to save something unless they love it. And it's 100% exactly. It's like interaction education. If people don't interact with it, they don't want to save it. They don't care. They don't love it. They don't remember it. Touch and kinesthetic learning that's how kids exist. They exist by touching and doing and learning. And if they touch something, they're like, oh, snakes aren't slimy. Oh, tortoises can feel through their shell. Oh, like bugs aren't gross. Like my hissing cockroaches always get the kids. My tarantula, Fuzzbert, is like class favorite. I had him on my stomach when I'm like hugely 9 months pregnant during a show at this little church with all these Hispanic families who are freaking out that I have a tarantula on my belly. Like they think it's going to bite me and kill my baby. They are literally freaking out. And they didn't even know he was there the entire show until the end when I take him off my shirt. He sat there through all the other animals. I'm talking on a mic. Everything's loud. He's just sitting perfectly on my tummy. Bloop, right there. And they totally thought he was a prop. I get to the end and I'm like, all right, I'm going to put Fuzzbert back and you guys can come up and see the animals if you want. They're like, like you get audible gasp of complete panic that I had a spider on me. So I'm like, I just want people to realize they're not scary. That's all I want. If it ended in a freaking weird ass TV show on MTV or Animal Planet, okay, cool. As long as it gets people interested. But my big thing is like, I just want kids to be excited. Like the kids that I had at the birthday party yesterday. The kids I had at the birthday party, they were a little nervous.
Sorry,
they wanted reptiles. I can totally hear it. I'm just used to tuning kids out, so I just ignore it. But the kids who wanted me at their birthday party were kind of nervous. And their mom was like, I don't know how they're going to do. Like, they said they wanted them. Kind of surprised. I was like, they'll be fine. And some of them the kids didn't want to hold them, but they wanted to pet everything. They had questions about everything. And I'm like, okay, that's all I want. I want to foster that curiosity, engage it, ask them why they might be uncomfortable or scared, and then go from there. And if they're not wanting to touch it, they don't want to touch it. I don't want to peer pressure them. I don't want to make them afraid of it by giving them a traumatizing experience. I want them to remember it was good. Even if it was limited exposure and limited touching, then that's what they get. And they learned it was a good experience, even if it was just limited. So that's kind of where I go with that. Oh, come on. So as far as grand scheme and plans, I don't have anything in particular. I'm just kind of open to whatever God ends up
You're just letting it run its course.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that. I like that.
Trying to go with that and see what I can do to keep kids engaged, keep my animals happy, not neglect the 2 human children I have, and kind of going with it.
Is Amanda still part of it? I feel like there's a picture of 3 of you at one point. So I'm trying to figure out how it's all. Yeah.
So I've had a ton of volunteers, a bunch of friends who have on and off. I'll be like shorthanded with either, hey, I'm going to be doing like 5 shows today. I'm going to be slammed. I still got to pump because I was breastfeeding my kids. I'm like, I got to pump on the drive. And I can't do all this and pack up the car. So I'm going to need like 3 people. And I don't care if you're there for 1, 2, you meet me at the show or drive with me, but I need someone to help me. And Amanda, I bought her out, and so I had been my own business, and then went back to sole proprietorship. So I was super stoked. But then I was like, shit, bruh. Now I don't have anyone to drive with. So my friend Heather, her kids would come with me on a regular basis. They can't drive, but they were super helpful because they'd help move stuff while I'm finishing pumping, or they'd help move stuff and pack the animals up when I'm switching them out between the show. I can do most of it by myself because I've gotten a routine down to do it all by myself. But I take my time and I don't try to cut people off when there's a never-ending line of questions. I have a really hard time saying no and like, I gotta go to the next show. I hate cutting the kids off. I'm like, I don't want to stifle them. Let them be excited. So I have a hard time with that. But when I have volunteers there, it's like, all right, they're already packing up. Looks like everything's done. We gotta go. Bye. Instead of me trying to pack it up and do it all that while I'm answering questions. So having the volunteers has been great. My best friend Chantel's helped. My other best friend Johnny's helped. They've all been fantastic. So I've been doing it on my own the last 2 years, 2.5 years. So right before my second one was born in 2019 is when we switched everything over. So I've been doing all this with the kids and the babies and doing all that, kind of keeping it going. My mom's been hugely helpful with watching the kids, extended aunts and grandmas watching the boys, so I can go do all these shows when they get booked. Basically, I'm like, any part-time jobs I've ever had take the back seat when it comes to the reptile shows. I'm like, this is my priority, is getting these shows done. And if I have the part-time job, great. If they don't want me to stay after they figure out how much I'm gone in the summer, okay, I'll find something else. But right now I've been working at Amazon in the warehouse, and I'm on a flex schedule, so I can pick up my schedule every single week. So if I have reptile shows, I don't have to go to work. I just don't pick up shifts, which is really nice, except I'll be really broke next week. So this whole last week was spring break for my boys, so I didn't go to work. I had the reptile shows and everything else. I'm like, I'm just not going to go to work. I want to focus on the boys and the reptiles this week and have it back to being my happy place. And it was a good choice. I'll be broke next week, but I regret nothing. So definitely
being broke for a little while, there's worse things that could happen.
Exactly. And the reptile shows make me happy. It's doing what I feel God put me on earth to do. It's talking to these kids and people and making them enjoy the things that I enjoy, even if it's just for a little while. Like, you can see the parents, all the hesitation, all the anxiety, all the nerves about doing anything or even being in a shared space with these guys. And then the genuine joy and bliss watching their kids enjoy the animals, watching them be like, oh my God, I did it. I held a snake. Did you get a picture? Like, they're so excited because they've never had that opportunity, because they're thinking, oh, this is for the kids. I'm like, this is just as much for the adults as it is the kids. They get so much out of it. And when the kids misremember something or say something, the parents can be like, hey, you had a really cool snake birthday party. Remember, snakes aren't scary. They can throw those tidbits of information and memories back out and remind them how good of an experience they had. They can talk about how good of an experience they had. And none of it's negative. Like, nothing scary. Like most people just automatically are cool with the tortoises. I had like one person scared of the tortoise. They were convinced it was a snapping turtle. That was a whole other story. I was telling them at 8, but So the snakes and the lizards, though, those tend to scare people. The hissing cockroaches too. Brochacho, you are like killing me right now. So I really like, as long as I can get to them, like inside, like really get them. That's what matters. That's the big thing for me. That's the payoff.
Which ones? It's kind of a toss up for me because I've done a few education shows. Like I wanted to at one time. Like I was split down doing breeding, doing education, or just keeping a collection and keeping it to myself. And I was like, yeah, I can't do that because that's the wrong thing to do. I enjoy breeding. I don't know that I'll always breed, but there's always a part of me with education that's the most fulfillment, I think, that you can get out of keeping these animals. It's a huge toss-up for me, though, between bringing that child and seeing the eyes light up and, like, getting rid of that fear for the child, or breaking that this is going to sound bad, but breaking that adult spirit. Being like, I fucking got you. You like reptiles now, and you don't even know it. Because I used to have, like, I had this one mom. I did a Boy Scouts meeting once, right? And I had my red tail, and she's probably like 7 foot, maybe.
Okay.
God, I don't know, like 20 pounds. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how much she weighs. She's
about
big,
you know.
Like I'm not weighing her all the time. As long as she doesn't look like she's losing weight, I'm not too worried about it. But I have her out as the final animal, and like, because she's the biggest snake I have. So that's the climax, And
the big show.
I have the kids, and they're holding it, and you just see their mom's like, and I was like, come here, Mom. I can't put my snake on your child until you're over here too, because I'm gonna be up here at the head. That way your child can't get bit and you can't get bit. But you have to be on the other end, because I don't want this snake to wrap around. Not that she would, but
see, I don't even say
you're
that,
talking about like little
puts
kids.
That feed into their thought, right?
But then they have to hold the tail end, and they're like, "Oh, I can't let anything happen because."
See,
what if
I joke
and they're like, "Oh, this is it."
I'm like, I don't want your kid to drop my snake and hurt it. I really, really need your help.
That's a better move. I'm not gonna lie. That's a way better move. I guilt them about taking care of their kid.
See, I was gonna say, I'm a preacher's daughter, so guilt works great. Getting people to do what you want.
At the end of it, I'd have the snake all the way across the mom, and the dad's looking like, I don't know how you did that. And the mom's like, I'm okay, but get it off me, please.
Right. She's like, I don't want to drop it. It's a living being. I can't hurt it. Please get it off me. Yeah, the bracing. I'm like, breathe with me. Breathe. I don't want anyone passing out right now.
But I think my favorite before I got rid of it was my ATB, though. But the problem was I could never hand that off. Like, by the time I left the show, I've had bites from my pinky all the way up to my elbow. He's just sitting there like, you guys got to stay back. But boom, boom, boom. And I'm talking with my other hand the whole time, not thinking about it, just antagonizing him.
Right.
It is what and these guys eat birds and bats and whatever they can get in the air. And here, let me do this.
Yeah. I was going to say, my favorite learning moment where I literally had every single audience member hanging on every breath I took was amazing. I love it because it was totally... You ever remember one of those Steve Irwin interviews they had where he's holding this, I think it was an olive python, and it just nailed him right in the neck? And he's like, oh, she's biting me. Super chill. Like, probably want to cut it so I can take her off. Because I just told you she's not going to bite me, but she's biting me. And the lady's just like, I had my Woma. Loved my Woma. He was the best. But super mouthy and a little bit twitchy. He was usually my cage display on the table because he's very active and mobile. He moved a lot. And that kept kids engaged because ball pythons don't do anything. They just sit when you put them in a cage. And the Woma, whoa, bro, chill. The Woma would move and do stuff. But I brought him out because I was like, some kids were asking. And so we're in the middle of the presentation and I get him out and he's doing okay. But this particular group, it was in Forest Grove, I think. They were bonkers. There was like 80 of them jammed in the community room. Their parents, literally every single adult in that room, almost all of them, were standing in the back talking. Normal level, not whispering, not trying to be respectful at all. The kids were losing their damn minds. There were pencils and pop cans and all kinds of crap flying across the room like they're throwing crap at each other during the show. I've never had such an unruly group. It was insane. And one kid sees Willie. He's wrapped around my hand. And I'm kind of holding him up away from the children. And this one kid jumps up and tries to whack him and scares the piss out of him. And he launches back off my hand and he nails me right here in the shoulder. And he's got teeny tiny teeth, so he just gets hooked and gets stuck. And he's not actively biting me. He's just got his top jaw hooked into my arm and his bottom jaw is just hanging there. He's like, shit, like stuck. And I'm like, I ain't fucking ripping him off my arm because he's going to fucking rip his teeth out. So I just had to sit there and I'm like waiting for him to figure out how to let go. But immediately he whips around and bites me. And I'm like, shame on all of you. And they're just like, I'm like, do you see this? Do you see what happened? You guys are mean and you scared him. And now he's biting me because he thinks that's going to save him. Because you guys are being insensitive and mean. And you should feel bad. He's scared now and he's biting me. And they're like, oh my God. Like, no one breathed for a good 30 seconds. Like, they were like looking for blood, looking for me to panic. They were looking for some sign of distress. And I was so upset. I was shaming them and embarrassing them. And especially the kid that tried to hit him. I was like, you need to go outside now. Until your parents come back. You can't come in. Bye-bye. And sent them out. And they were just like, all the kids just watched the procession and they're like, oh my God. And then like this one little girl starts crying and she's like, is he okay? I'm like, she's not asking me if I'm okay. I have a snake hanging off my arm biting me. And she's like, is he okay?
Is that my side or yours?
It's my side. As a 5-year-old running down. Probably got to pee. It's fine. But yeah, and the adults, I had one friend, my friend Wendy was there, and so she was able to nail a couple of pictures of it. And I had posted it, I think it's on my regular Facebook page or the Preacher Teacher page, but a picture of me like shushing all the crazy children. Bro, chill. Shushing all the children because they were being so disrespectful. And all of a sudden, all these parents who had just basically dropped their kids in there and not paid attention came running back to get their kids and get, oh, you guys need to be quiet. I'm like, oh, good. I'm glad I have everyone's attention. But yeah, there's some great pictures of me shushing all the children while a snake hangs off my arm. And he was on there for a solid 45 minutes while we finished the presentation because he just didn't let go. And I think he was legit stuck. So finally, we finished the presentation, finished bringing out all the animals. I had him still stuck to my arm while I'm doing the rest of this. I finally get to the end where I'm like, okay, dude, I think you're stuck. I don't think you're coming off. So I like had to squeeze his head and pull him off. And he just goes like, and fixes his face. And I put him back in the cage. And I'm like, now when you guys come up here, I don't want to see anyone tapping on this cage. You be nice to him. Because he's had a rough day. And they were all like, so all the kids, every time they pass, they're like, Willie, are you okay? Is your mouth hurting? Like they're talking to him. I'm like, compassion is budding in your hearts for animals. I'm so happy. I had to shame you. I had to shame your parents. But I don't care. The message got across. There's compassion budding for scaly things that you never really didn't care about. They're sentient beings. They feel things. And I was so happy because I was like, I don't care I got bit. There's like not a scar. There ain't nothing there. But it definitely left an impression on those kids. And they care more now. And they're probably way more thoughtful about how they behave when there's other animals around. Because it was like, hey, I told you all this was going to happen. And he's not biting any of you guys. He's biting me, his mom. He's scared. Like, and they were just like, just watching their little gears turn and think about what they did and how that caused it was huge. So, come on, bro. Sorry, lizard's trying to dive bomb off this bed. Oh, suicide bomber. Oh, let me get the Giddy Scoop while I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Ugh.
Do you think that you're gonna stick strictly to education forever? Or are you ever gonna? I don't know if you've ever pondered into other sides of it,
Like the breeding side,
like breeding or conservation, as some people say, because they want to breed, but they want to feel special about it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I've absolutely considered the conservation side of it, and a lot of my presentations that I do, we talk about conservation and proper husbandry, and in the hobby, this is not okay to go let your myrtle go in the wild because you don't want her no more. We talk about all of the things that I feel will make the community at large better if these simple things are followed. Everyone's going to have a different opinion on snake racks or enclosures or this or that. I don't try to push anything specific that way, but conservation wise, it's like, look, these animals are directly affected if you let other animals go. Our native species will go extinct because other people have let their pets go. Like Florida always comes up in my talk. Sorry, Florida. It happens all the time. I'm constantly talking about the invasive species down there, how it's been thrown out of whack, everything else. That becomes a huge part. So conservation is a huge part of my talk. Invasive species is another huge like cornerstone on my talk. So that kind of stuff happens a lot. I'd love to get more into the conservation and doing stuff like ideally down the road, money and all that. Hey, we're going to go on a little vacay. We're going to go down here and we're going to work on iguana trapping in Florida. We're going to go down. I have a friend in Florida who does a lot of nuisance animal trapping. So he'll catch gators and stuff, but he'll go and catch the invasive stuff. And I'm like, I want to go down there and just do like a YouTube episode for like, we're working on this for this week. We're doing this kind of stuff, trying to work on the environment, helping that way. So there's lots of different outreach I'd like to do. All requires money. So most of it's not happening right now. But as far as the conversations happening and organically being a part of the show and the presentations that I do, that is already a huge part of it because that's where my heart is. Again, Steve Irwin, Wildlife Warriors, like trying to push that and help that. So that's a big one. Breeding, I thought about for a hot minute, but I was like, most of my animals are rescues, so a little bit of guilt there. All my dogs have been rescues, a little bit of guilt there. Love to have a purebred at some point just because they're pretty. Can't afford it, and there's so many rescues that are just as good. So I kind of have the rescuer's heart. I just want to take everything that doesn't have a home or spent its good baby years with someone and then they got tossed out like garbage. I want to go give them that good ending to their life. So most things I get are hand-me-downs, second use, gently used critters. So I tried, like my ball python I had gotten, she was a retired breeder when I got her. She was 11 years old. She retained sperm from a previous breeding on a year, and then my second year I had her, she laid eggs. I was like, what the hell? Like, opened the rack, and there's eggs everywhere. I'm like, oh, shit. So I was like, I guess we're going to do maternal incubation because I don't have a snake egg incubator. So cool, we'll see if this works. She got them like 3 days before they were hatching, and we had a heat wave, and they cooked in the rack. But it was super cool. I went and like snipped the eggs open on the hatch day they should have had, and this, that, and the other, and they were all albino. It was super cool, but super bummed they didn't hatch. But I was like, I don't know. I've never been a huge fan of having baby animals, particularly just because they're scared to death of everything. Everything startles them. Switching up foods and stuff like that, and upgrading cages. I was like, the
getting them started
everything.
on food, the infrastructure you need for it. Yeah,
bro. Like, I don't want to do that with my human children. I don't want to do that with reptiles. Like, that's a pain. So I have mostly avoided having baby animals. My Gaboon was a baby, or he was like a year old when I got him. And I've had a few others that were just super uncommon, like my baby beaded lizard, the little asshole satanic thing. He's a baby. But like, for the most part, I avoid babies. I try really hard to stick with juveniles or adults, things that are set on, we know they're a good eater. We know they're solid. They don't have any health issues. There's no weird shit that's going to sneak up and bite me in the ass later. I already know what their temperament's going to be like because I've had asshole boas and I've had my amazing boas. So knowing where they're at already will let me know if they're going to be a good fit versus me getting emotionally attached to them and then they just sit there not doing anything because I can't take them to a show because they stress. So I try really hard to stick with the adults. The babies are hard. So that's my preference. But there's always once in a while I'm just like, I need it. I'll see a cute little hatchling picture. I'm like, I don't need it, but you know what I mean. Like, oh, I really want that. My friend Shane has some Crebos he's been breeding. I want one so bad, but I don't need it. I don't need it. I have colubrids. I have other snakes. I've got it, but I really want that. That's like on my wish list, and I'm like, can I justify it? So,
yeah, I almost grabbed one from Riley last year, and I was like, you know what, dude, my room's too small. I can't do it. With everything else that I have, I do not need something that is going to launch its entire body out of its enclosure.
7-foot body at me, right? Yeah. So this is the Gidgee skink I was talking about, my little poor man's shingleback. He is a fat little obese pine cone right now, but the reason I got him super dirt cheap, they're normally like $600-700. I got him for like $150, I think, because he's got this little calcified lump on his back. So his name's Quasimodo. We just call him Quasi, but he's also a dick and doesn't like me and tries to bite me. So he hasn't gone to any kid shows yet. So we're working on him. But he's pretty cool, and I really like him because he's got all these nifty scales. Yeah, pet me with your eyes. Stop touching me. He's a jerk. But yeah, he's got different scales. They're healed. They're not like the super smooth ones like the boa. And everyone's like, oh my God, they're so soft when they pet the snakes. And then I bring the lizards out and they're like, oh, so scratchy. I'm like, you can't pet them both ways on these guys. These guys, you have to pet one direction. So just getting all the tangible, kinesthetic, like I said, the hands-on portion is really what helps the kids remember the experience. Is like, oh yeah, the lizard was really bumpy, or the snake was super soft, and I'm like, oh, is it rough or scratchy? And just trying to get them to nail down what things felt like in their heart, like emotionally, and then what the animals actually felt like. Are you scared? Do you think he's going to eat me? And they're like, no. I'm like, my milk snake's like 5 feet long, but her head's the size of my thumbnail. Do you think she's going to eat you? No. My boa's 7 feet long. Her head's the size of my thumb. Do you think she's going to eat you? No. And like when they start rationalizing it, it makes way more sense because they can see it. They can touch it. They're like, oh, yeah, their head's tiny. Totally not going to eat me. But the dawning, like I said, the recollect, like when the parents start seeing it, they're like, oh, man, I'm stupid. Duh. Like the realization and the awareness starts kicking in, and it's like, oh, the ignorance is fleeing. I'm so excited. Like just the potential for how much impact they can have outside of me. Now, speaking forward, they can say, oh, well, obviously it's a little snake. It's fine. It's not going to do anything. They're going to run into a garter snake, and instead of trying to kill it with a shovel, they'll be like, it eats worms. We talked about that with that lady, remember? I don't know what that lady's name was, but the one that talked about the garter snake, they eat worms. Like somebody asked me at the birthday party if snakes are social, and I'm like, not necessarily, but there's rattlesnakes and garter snakes, and they den in the hundreds in the wintertime. They're like, really? Like, yeah. And then I got to talk about conservation. Well, so many people go up and kill rattlesnake dens, and now there's so many dens that have been generations and hundreds of years, and they're just gone. And it's the awareness and the compassion that you see on people after they ask those questions. They're like, people suck. Like, they realize that, and they were that person like 30 seconds before where they would have been like, it's a rattlesnake and kill it. But now they're like, oh, man, humans suck. Like, there was no reason to kill those dens, but they were. And now they're all, yeah, it happens all the time.
I'm a very proud Texan. That is the one thing that makes me sick to say I'm from Texas.
Right. Rattlesnake roundups and stuff. Like, that stuff's insane. And I really would love to move to Texas, but I'm like, I will literally be the crazy rattlesnake lady. It's not the crazy cat lady. I'll be like, bring them to me. They can live with me. And I'll just have this huge pit in my backyard where all the snakes hang out. And I'm like, we'll make a new den, and you guys can be here and just live, and it'll be fine. Like, it'll be a problem. So I have been hesitant to start taking up more venomous rescues because I do have limited hot snake exposure when they are fully hot in the wild. My friend Rich, the Oregon reptile man, he would go herping every May for years. He'd catch new stuff, do the breeding, help do stuff. Like, he did all these things, and he worked with Fish and Wildlife. And I'm like, I want to do all the things, all the conservation. So I need more experience than that because I really want to get speckled. Speckled rattlesnakes are like on my dream list. of having as an
Is
educational animal.
it kind of like Florida where you have to do X amount of hours per family, or how's it work up there?
No, I mean, Oregon's different just in general because they take some stupid rules, but they have a couple of different rules where, like, you can, with certain species, certain native species, you can't have it all. Like, I really want rubber boas. I love rubber boas. They're an amazing educational animal. They're tiny. They're super easy to house, and they're all over the flipping place. My barn in Newburgh, where I keep my horses, I catch them all the time. Can't keep them, so I just have to let them go. My other friend that works at Fish and Wildlife, he'll come and get some from me and do studies, re-release them back at the barn. But I can't have them. It's a native species. On the same hand, they say certain native species, like the Great Basin rattlesnake, they're native to the Pacific Northwest. I can have up to 3 of those without a permit. Once I have more than 3, I have to get a permit, and that's venomous. And I'm like, that seems a little bit backwards. But okay, whatever. I'm not going to question it. I will just happily take pictures of my rubber boas, and I guess I'll use pictures at some point, because I've had a couple of places where I've tried to do a projection, like at the expo. We'll do a projection or a little slideshow on a laptop, and I can show, here's the pictures of the rubber boas. It's our only native boa constrictor, blah, 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 for Oregon. And then I've had pictures where I'm like climbing down into a sulcata burrow. It's like 12 feet long, and I can climb down into the burrow, turn around, and come back. And they're like, oh my God, it's a tortoise burrow. I'm like, if you like landscaping, don't get a tortoise. Like, just trying to remind people of the reality of these guys, like everything. Like, I make it a huge joke half the time just so people laugh about it, but they remember it better. Like, bro, do you want to clean up tortoise poop for 90 years in 90-degree weather in your garage? If not a good pet for you. Like, I have 3, and they're going to outlive me. They're my living will, or they're going to my children. They are inheriting tortoises. So that's just part of the conversation that's going to happen. Like, y'all need to know this is like long-term commitment. This is more than your marriage. Like, understand what I am saying to you right now. Like, this thing will be around when your ex is in the grave. Like, you need to understand what I am saying. If your ex got you this tortoise, it's going to remind you for a long time. Like, I really try to, like, people are like, oh, cute. I'm like, get a calendar. That's what I love parrots. I would not be a good bird owner. They would bite me. I'd get pissed. I'd bitch slap one of them. Like, I don't want to hear the screaming. I just don't want to deal with it. I love parrots. I could not own one. My friend Heather, God bless her, she got 4 birds, and I volunteer to be the bad guy, because I'm like, if they're not living with me, I'll clip their nails and wings, and I'll do all that, because then they can just hate me, and they don't have to hate you. I will get a calendar. I will look at the beautiful birds and all the beautiful feathers, and I don't have to listen to screaming. I don't have to clean up poop. I don't have to change their food 3 times a day because fruit flies. Like, I don't got to do none of that. I know my limitations, but I try to be a very aware individual and think about these things before I impulse buy things. So I have a lot of friends with animals, and I will vicariously enjoy them at their house. So try to make that point known. People, you want to hang out with the reptiles? Volunteer. Something else. You can clean as much poop as you want. I have plenty.
Right.
So, right. I'm like, it's not all fun and games, yeah. So.
I got a bunch of local people. They come around and like, I think I want to do what you're trying to do. I really like snakes. I want to keep a collection, and I think I might want to breed. I was like, you know what? Before you make that decision, why don't you come over here? You can internship for like a week or 2 and see what you think. Yeah. Like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna love it. All right, you clean that poop. I got other stuff to do real quick. Let me know. And I'll sit there and I'll scrub down the racks and everything and make it real nice while they're cleaning tubs. And by the time they're done with like 2 days of it, I don't want to do this. It's like, look at what we do every day. Look at what we do every day.
Yeah, and I mean,
now granted, the poop's not every day, but
collection.
Depending on the collection.
No, legit. And if they do poop, it's like poop soup in the water bowl that you just cleaned the other day. It's like, you're a jerk. So I'm like, no. I have a relatively small collection in comparison to a lot of my friends, like Rich Richie, Oregon Reptile Man. Again, love him to death. He's got a bazillion animals. My friend Brad, bazillion animals. I have 25. And I'm like, my plate's full. Like, I could probably make room for 5 to 10 more animals if I really needed to, But the only reason I have so many anyway is because I try to have a rotation, basically.
Mm.
I have a 3-week cycle. These animals are used on this week for these shows. When I had a busier schedule, it was very obvious. Like right now, it's a limited schedule, so I just use whoever. But these animals go this week, these animals go this week, and I have basically the first group would have 2 weeks off before I use it again. So it's like this 3-week rotation of which big snakes go, which big lizards go, which tortoises are going, which frogs are going, which spiders are going. Then everybody gets 2 weeks to recoup, 2 weeks to eat and crap before they go back out and have to have the onslaught of children. And it's worked great, but I need a rotation, a number of animals to do that. Right now, it's been like, okay, I need to get a couple more frogs. My pixie frog's been like the big hitter, and she's been doing a lot, and she's fine. She's been handling okay, but we don't have a lot of shows right now. Once things pick up, I'm going to need more. So I've been looking at getting another big cane toad or a marine toad or something big, something substantial and hefty that'll handle the stress a little better. So having enough animals to do that's one thing, but if I had to breed, I would have to have such a huge collection to make everything like feasibly work. And I'm just like, I don't have the energy for that. God bless you breeders. I couldn't do it. So
it takes a long time, dude.
Well, yeah. I mean, how many animals do you have? You have your ball pythons and all your other
With the babies I have right now, I'm at 48 animals.
48. See, you're already almost double what I have.
Come here, sucker.
Oh, hi,
Yeah, we're still talking.
hi.
And you still have a dirty... Can I have a wipe, please? No? Okay.
What'd you say?
Can I have a wipe, please? So I can clean his face.
Yes.
Hi, baby.
He's
I'll put him to bed when we're
I know. It's just.
This real life.
That's daddy's boy. He won't go to sleep without me holding him.
Oh, that's precious. See, mine used to hate cuddling. Now they like cuddling that they're bigger. And I'm like, you're going to get big and think you're too cool to snuggle me at some point. So I should just enjoy this.
Pretty much. That's what we're going to do.
I was trying to get Creeper out, but Creeper won't come out.
Come here. Kiss your face.
I can't tell where I am.
Say hi.
Hi, the screen's really little.
Hello.
I can't really hear either, but hi. I've been watching from the other room.
Okay, I got you.
You're okay.
All done. Here you go. That's yours. Till we're done. And then I'm
He
going to
had
get your
another
face
cookie,
again.
so.
Oh, sad baby. My 2-year-old screams like I'm trying to smother him every time I try to clean his nose. Every time. I'm like, bro.
They hate it.
I gotta
Don't
clean
come
it.
near their face. Kind of like a
My
snake.
big,
Don't
again,
come near
my
the
first
face.
one was super easy. Right.
It's like a bird swooping in.
Yep. Hi.
Say hi.
Oh, look at you.
Hi.
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 He's a natural. He was born.
Oh, little flirt. Little
Yes.
flirt. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How long do you take to kind of get your animals ready? I guess
For,
like in the
presentation?
sense of handling. So one for the presentation, but like how long does it take you to kind of have them ready for
Now you're here.
to be able to present them and be an ambassador?
Yeah. So as far as the presentations go, I usually try to show up an hour before each of my presentations, just set up and let them decompress from the drive, see where they're all at. And then the show itself, the presentation's about 45 minutes, and then I usually do another 30 to 45 minutes of follow-up afterwards. It's like the meet and greet, and that's where everyone who attended can come and pet them, ask the questions that they were waiting to ask, and just see them up close. And if it's a birthday party, I'll do some holding limitedly, but usually I just let the kids pet because I've had too many animals come home with bruises when kids are holding them too rough and stuff. So if it's a limited, small amount birthday party, I can sit there one-on-one with them. I'll do holding, but we do it that way. And then as far as timeline getting animals ready, they are all individual. Like my two children look alike. They are 100% 180 different. They are so different. My animals are insanely super individual, and they all have their own personalities, and that's been a huge thing. Trying to explain that to people. It's like, okay, Penelope, my blind albino boa, she came to me with a great temperament. She was born that way. She's just a placid, quiet, happy, easygoing snake. Like nothing upsets her. I also have a berm, and I have one berm that's great. I have one berm that's absolutely neurotic, and he's beautiful. He's a paradox albino. I want to take him to shows. He would totally musk and crap on someone, and I just can't have a giant snake flailing and throwing poop. Like, it's just not a thing.
I mean,
He was just, it's not that he's got a bad temperament. He wasn't socialized. Part of it could be he has a more neurotic temperament. It could be a multitude of things. But I've had him for 2+ years and have been handling him. And he's not mean. He's not bitey. He is just super flighty and nervous. So having a big flailing snake is really kind of the opposite of what I need to have at a show. I need a super chill, forgiving snake like Penelope. I'm really hoping that Burmese will chill out, because I would love to take him to shows. He's beautiful, but he's not been adjusting as well. And he's only gone to like one show, and that's it, because I'm not comfortable taking him until he chills out. The golden child retic I have, he's super cagey, food aggressive, but once he's out, super happy, super mellow, super easygoing. But because he can be cage aggressive, I get nervous about taking him to a show, because coming out of his bin, he might decide to nail me, and then I have to deal with a superficial bloody hand that's going to terrify everybody. So I've been like, it's not that he would hurt anybody else, but me going into his bin to get him out. So it's been hit or miss with everybody. My giant Savannah monitor, he is one of my favorites. He was picked up by Fish and Wildlife, wandering through a backyard in Gresham. It's like 20 minutes from me. No one knows where he came from or what his story is. They picked him up, took him to one of my friends who is, she has a permit to hold exotics for the county. She called me. She's like, hey, I know you just had to euthanize your other Savannah. I got one that showed up. Do you want him? I'm like, yep. As long as it's an adult, I'll take it. And he came perfect. Great temperament, super easygoing, got a mean bone in his body. It's really each individual animal. Sometimes I don't have to take a day, like other than their quarantine period that I give all my animals. I don't need to wait. I can take them right on the road, and they are just A-okay with it. I've had a couple, like my bearded dragon. I think I was telling you about him when we were setting up. He was just a raging butthole the first 2 years I had him. And now he's still a jerk, but he's only a jerk when I'm getting him out of his cage. And then he's totally fine at the birthday parties. So he went to the birthday party yesterday. But it's like, it took so long, and he's a bearded dragon. Most people think of them being easy keel and super fun.
They're
like,
usually just a rock.
Psycho. He would like bite my nose like Fever when he was not nice. Like, it took a long time and a lot of extra work with him. He was flighty and aggressive and mean, and he'd bite my phone and shake it. When I'd put it on selfie mode so he could see his face, he'd freak out. He was not a nice lizard, but he's good now. And it took a lot of effort and time.
Oh, hold on. My Bluetooth just died. All right, can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
Okay, my Bluetooth died. So for me, part of that has to be my mother's intuition and just feeling where the kids are at. Is this kid gonna have the temperament for it, or does this kid just need mileage and exposure? My frilled dragon, he's just a sad little neurotic mess. He doesn't need to go. He's not going to get better. The Gidgee skink, this guy is a raging butt, but he's totally going to get better. He'll mellow out because now he's not wiggling. He's not trying to get away. He's not gaping. He'll get better. It just takes time, and I need to take him to shows. He's done a lot of like this where I get him out and I sit there and I'm moving my hands around him and stuff like that. I'll have my kids pet him, but he still gapes. And once he finally stops doing that, I'll feel comfortable taking him to an actual show, because I don't want kids to get scared of him. And he's kind of cute and chubby. He's not super scary, but when he opens his mouth, he's got a bright blue purple tongue. And that might startle some of the kids. So long story short, it's really just, for me, I've been around reptiles long enough that you can tell when it's a temperament, whether they have the temperament for it or whether they just need exposure and miles for it, if that makes sense.
I'm gonna have to cut it so I can get little man to sleep.
No, that's totally fine.
Shanti, thank you so much. Can you do me a favor and just like throw
Yes.
out where we can find you? Guys, make sure you go give this lady some love. Go visit that Patreon page. Let's make sure
I
she
am
can
so
continue to
appreciative you guys have
educate.
I'm so appreciative you had us on, me and the critters. We bunny trailed, but it was so much fun talking. And I really hope that if someone's going to take something away, even if it's not me, support the educators, please. We only have so many reptile educators out there that are able to do this because of a lot of the time it's just literally parents having their animals at home, and then a teacher finds out they have reptiles and like, can you please bring your reptile to class? Like, there's only a few educators that do this for a business, and they need every ounce of support you guys can do. If you want to support me and my animals, hi, my Patreon and is Creature Teachers. It's Pacific Northwest PNW. Hi, baby. I've got my Facebook page. I've got all kinds of stuff where you can hop on and just track us and follow us. If you wanted to just donate to PayPal one time and you don't want to be on the Patreon or for whatever reason, definitely. There's all kinds of options. Hi, baby. My Facebook, I'm on every day. So you guys can always send messages that way and check in. And our email is KRIENS creatures@gmail.com if you want to shoot us an email to set up a show or just to ask questions. So I hope that helps. I appreciate everyone taking time to talk and listen in tonight.
We'll definitely take the opportunity when it presents itself to have you back for round 2. Hopefully,
love that.
when
Thank
he's
you.
a little bit older and we can get him down at a normal time.
There's drugs for that. Just saying. So I appreciate you having me on.
We'll see you
Have a
next
good
week.
night.
You too, Sean.
Bye.